and welcome back to another episode of KingQuest, the personal quest journey that I'm going through to read everything that is ever associated with Stephen King. This week we are touching we finished six of his books, his stories and stuff. So now this is the first time we're touching an anthology series that's not even his. This is Tales of Unknown Horror, which is a collection, story collection gathered, I guess is a better word for it, by Peter Hanging. And based on his intro, excuse me, based on his intro, it seems pretty solid. Like, he wanted to go through all the different magazines that are no longer being published, and the stories, like, lost within them, to pull them out into a collection series. So you get, like, a lot of famous authors with, like, just little short stories that seem to fit more into the gruesome and the dark. Like, stuff like that. This is honestly like I found it. I found like on eBay some dude was selling a copy of this book and more Tales of Unknown Horror as like a dual set, so I got them both. And I guess I got it as like an original print, like first edition stuff, so it made me a little nervous to actually read it physically. I had a copy of the Fu Manchu series by Sax Romer. I'll figure out how to pronounce names, but I will refuse to. Um, anyway, I got one of those books and I was like reading it normally as a paperback, but I didn't realize how old it was. So back, the spine of it started cracking and busting and tearing out more and more. So I was a little nervous that I was going to do the same thing with this book, especially when I realized that it was a first edition, but I ended up doing pretty well of just making sure that I did not bend the book all the way to the spine itself. And yeah, it is safe and secured back in its plastic wrap that I got from eBay. Um, but yeah, like, so this is gonna be very weird because it's not necessarily about Stephen King. It's just like a bunch of stories and he's included into it. Although I do appreciate this edition that I got. It first and foremost it says includes Stephen King's Cat from Hell. Like we are emphasizing, and on the back it emphasizes in big letters Stephen King, author of Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining, crowns a stunning new anthology of horror. I mean, I guess crowns would be like a good end cap to this thing, but yeah, they definitely emphasize Stephen King is included in this like collection of short stories. And I do appreciate Peter Hanging with his intro. He was just talking about how stories are lost. He wants to gather them up all up for people to enjoy. He was talking about the different authors that are included that you might not know to like write horror fiction. Mary Shelley obviously is included in here, but then we have stuff like Sax Romer, which is more of like a detective action series. We got H.P. Lovecraft, which is horror, but his horror is more like of the ethereal space kind, not a general idea of like the regular dark and gruesome type of horror. And Ray Bradbury, which is like also included in this, and his is more sci-fi, like Twilight Zone mindfuckery than actual straight horror, which does happen in here. So I guess I just want to like overview of this series is it's all right. It's okay. Like I could just quickly give like one or two things. Like none of this is Stephen King, so I'm not doing a deep dive. I mean, I went off a lot with the other ones because I liked his short stories. Here is just it's a smaller collection. They named them different types of horror stories like gothic and supernatural and fantasy and ghoulish and stuff. And some of them are good. Some of them are funny. Not all of them though is the thing, and that just might be because it's like written in old-timey English, you know? Um like it's written in that type of English that's so outdated that it's hard to understand and translate, even if it is like a newer English. Um, like what I mean is like it's obviously newer from like the 1800s as opposed to like Shakespeare English, but you still need a translation because their writing styles is just so wordy that it's hard to really piece together. Like I guess for example, the first one, Gothic by Mary Shelley. It's called the reanimated Englishman. And the whole point of that is that they ended up finding some dude supposedly had died back in like the year 17 something something. Turns out he was just frozen in snow, so it was a time capsule, and then he comes to life. So it read more like a philosophical science paper than anything actually scary with that one. Like the dude just it was just more like what a mind trip would it be if you had died and then but you actually woke up again and it turns out you're 200 years in the future. Everything that you had known about and loved is now gone and you're stuck in this future events. So it's not exactly horrific as much as it was sort of dull and boring to me with that one. Um, Another boring-ish one. Well, there's many boring ones. H.P. Lovecraft's one was so boring. It's called The Challenge from Beyond, and I guess like the category was outre, however you want to put that one in. And it's like his deal is dealing with space and aliens and stuff. So his short story is about space and aliens and the mind trippery it is, but it's told is like a explanation flashback of this entire alien society, how this alien expansion militaristic colonization works and stuff, and eventually you get to like the big bit at the end where in order for the aliens to communicate with people they have to put their brains inside of an alien body to communicate, so this dude sees himself as a giant worm. And I'm sorry, it's just I could have been also tired, but I was also just so bored with this bit. Like I've read better I count this story as like a humanity fuck yeah type of story that I see on like Reddit all the time. And I've read better shit on Reddit with in terms of like world building and punches and stuff. So sorry, Lovecraft, I don't like the story, so you sort of suck. Um and then we got like stuff like there's The Red Mist, that's also by Sax Romer. It's like a detective thing of like the detective pretends to be not like the detective has his assistant pretends to be himself as he investigates this mystery of this red mist, and we learn this mystery as he pretends to not be who he says he is to figure out why this red mist is coming for them. But then it like goes off at the end, like because the point of a detective novel is that you're supposed to try to figure it out as you go along, but since this is a short story, you don't really get a lot of clues. So essentially, it was just once they see the dude in the red mist like come out, they sort of chased him into the red mist, and he got by poison because in actuality he turns out to be a science, but in actuality he was actually this other financial thief that the other detective was going for. But in actuality, this entire thing was a ruse to try to kill the detective. But in actuality, he was also Russian, I guess, and had a secret Russian assistant, and that was the weirdo random woman that tried to warn him. Like, a lot of all the explanation stuck at the very end, the last two paragraphs, and it's like, what's with all this off screen bullshit that we never actually see any hints to? Again, short story, but like, it wasn't really there. Um, the other ones, like, were sort of decent. Some of the ones were funny. That's the ones that I like, the ones that are really funny. The Dracula File by Tim Stout. Honestly, I want to see that as a movie. That sounds great. They're making they're basically making Mel Brooks Dracula Dead and Loving It, and Dracula's pissed off, so he just starts killing the filmmakers that are making the movie. I'm not even gonna tell you like what the twist is because there's like some really good shit. They even told like it's such a good love letter to Dracula because it has all of his powers that you see in the book. It's told in newspaper articles and clippings and interviews and stuff like how the original Dracula was told. It's such like it throws shade on everything and everyone and with like their writing and stuff. Like they even had the part where he like crawled on the side of the building like a lizard and then falls into a bunch of flowers. Like that is like on point of how many references are. So that one was one of my favorites. Another funny one is called Son of a Witch. It's just a guy ends up accidentally buying a magic carpet, and everyone is trying to figure out what do you want to do with it, and they're not mean about it. They're just like, why don't you use it as a taxi service? Why don't you use it on vacation? And they're just trying to figure out, what am I gonna do with this old beat ass magic carpet? And then you find out that a witch who's dealing with like mortgages from his deadbeat witch mother and stuff, and like he sold his soul so many times to other demons and things for debts. And this is, I guess, also written in World War II because his plan was to go to Satan, sell his soul, and somehow control Hitler so that way he can like rule the world in World War II. And then he just dies in like the best, funniest way of just like he just falls off a building. Like that one, I think that one was enjoyable just because like it's a nice touch of humor to it. I think. Um, we got like some. I'm just trying to like go through here of like what we got on. I'm obviously hopping around from place to place of like these different stories, but Woman with the Velvet Collar by Gaston Leroux. It's pretty good. It's titled weird, but I thought it was like a pretty good gothic horror thing of like you think this woman in an affair got her head chopped off, but so everyone thinks like she has been headless, and so it's like all about this revenge type dark sinister story of what's going on with this woman. It's all right. I like the story itself, maybe not the way that it's written. Um The Silent Witness in Terror by Richard March. Actually, I don't remember this one. I need to check up on my notes here. Oh, that one was an odd one. I liked it at the beginning, but I think that it lost itself. It like a guy ends up somehow becoming comatose but still mentally trapped in his body, so he sees everyone essentially blaming him for a crime he didn't commit, seeing his wife cry over his body and profuse his innocence, seeing himself literally being buried and into the funeral, like into his coffin and trying to get out. Like that whole mental thing of him screaming in his mind of trying to get out, that one was good. I think that was like really well done for a horror story. Then it gets a little weird where like the first thing he does when he finally breaks free is to get to his boss to profess his innocence and catch the real killer. Like not even, I mean, I guess like yeah, you got to wrap up that in a bow. It just seems like an odd choice, but I thought that was a decent story. Um Undersea Guardians by Ray Bradbury. That was like a pleasant surprise to me. That was also another one of those World War II set stories where it's set during the war. It's about like these people who after being sunk in a battleship become revenants per se, but underwater zombies where they are not necessarily tasked, but they take it up upon themselves to protect the ally ships, the convoys going forward by killing and destroying the U-bomb, U the U, I can't say the words. The U-subs, like the German submarines. So that was just like interesting of just seeing like how long will they have to toil, what are their worth, why are they doing this, them actually like purposely causing mayhem and destruction and drowning these people inside of a submarine for being like outworldly like fantasy style for Ray Bradbury. That was a very nicely done. I liked those stories. Um the other the few more that I had liked that were like surprising to me, Whispering Gallery. I thought that was very well done of just like this terror that this 5-year old is going through as he, as a 5-year old, he's exploring this room and he's being chased by echoes and whispers, and you get all of these good allegories and like descriptions of Greek mythology, of Roman mythology, of like the concept of echoes and repeating things over and over again as a sort of deja vu, and you get like this nice little ending to it of like as a horror story, as like this echo of the story as like a ghost story coming through. I thought that was like well done. That's definitely one of my favorites here. um up next, like I'm just gonna go through the last four here. Damsel is a weird one. It was like, what if it's Camelot? But Camelot is set up as like college fraternities and sororities, and they're just them like making fun of 9 to 5 nights. Just, I just do this all day, but now I fell in love with someone else in my dreams type of thing. It's more of like a satirical thing, which is fine. Nothing too it wasn't I don't actually now that I think about it, it's literally just about like knights dealing with like a dream mating, and then like he wants to marry his dream woman literally in his dreams, but then she broke up with him in his dreams. But like, how is that horror? There's nothing horrific about that entire story. It was just like a regular fantasy. The last one before we get to Stephen King is called The Tunnel by Rosemary Timperley. That one's a solid ghost story, I think. Like, that's a solid horror story that you would tell around the campfire of like a train conductor could have killed ghosts but didn't, but end up doing, and so you see like the whole thing of time going into itself of them. I am obviously telling these short stories like shit, but in terms of plot, but they're short stories. They ain't gonna really have like much to talk about. I guess like spoilers, but you could always read them if you want to. So it was just a nice ghost story of you think that he killed someone, but it was just shadows on the wall. And then the train conductor, like a year later, ends up actually killing people on the train because he thinks they were yet another hallucination. So he realizes that the people that he had killed, those shadows on the wall in the past, were actually prophesizing of him killing people in the future. And now people, whenever they go through that train hole, see the shadows on the wall of the deaths of the ghosts that were there. I thought that was well done as a short story. And finally, we got Stephen King. Yay! Cat from Hell, which I appreciate because I love cats. I've always loved cats. I've always had cats, and this is just about an evil cat. The bit is like a evil old man who had a pharmaceutical company that had like drugs which he knows kills cats because he uses cats as experimentation to kill thousands of cats during his testing phase of this. Wants this cat dead, so he hires an assassin to kill this cat, and we hear really good stories of just like how this cat has ended up killing three of his companions, his sister, his lover, his handyman guy, and the cat always comes back because the cat is after him, so he wants the assassin to kill the cat. And it's just like, honestly, like it's a literal fight between a guy and a cat inside of a car as he's trying to kill him. Honestly, the like I what say whatever the client wants, but to make things easier, don't drive to a secondary location if you're just trying to kill a cat. Just shoot him in the back of the head, like, and outside of the room, and call it good. Like, that's all you need to do. It's that simple. But instead, we get like a fight or flight thing of a pro assassin faces a cat. And this cat is a cat and also really fucked up, especially at the end. I just like this image gore of just like this nice calm cat somehow some way someday some way shoving its entire body down your throat and then literally eating its way out of your stomach. Like, and it's just a regular ass cat and it flees to murder again. Like, good for the cat. Appreciate it. But this is like, again, this is a very short collection and it's not even all about Stephen King. It's about a bunch of authors, so it's gonna be a little hard to rate this one. I don't really have much else to say. I have favorites, obviously, like Cat from Hell, duh. Whispering Gallery, I think is like fantastic. Same with Undersea Guardians and the two funny ones, The Dracula File and Son of a Witch. Other ones are just like mediocre, okay, and some of them are just very boring, but this is obviously a tier list. I think overall, honestly, it's not gonna be rated that high. Like, I would rate the Stephen King stuff a lot more. And if this book is just about Cat from Hell, it would have at least made it to like a C, probably a B, because I like that short story. But we got like other authors like sort of like conflated into this, and everyone's taste is different, obviously. So we're just trying to figure out, like, I wouldn't put it, and honestly, I wouldn't even rate it a C because, yeah, I like some of the stories. they are old stories. This was written in 78, so like the language that they have for some of the modern authors at that time is still 50 years ago, at least, or close to 50 years ago at this point. Math. So, honestly, I would probably rate it a D. No, I don't think I would even give. Well, okay, I would probably rate this book a D. Just because there's some good short stories in there that I personally like. Will I actually recommend this book? No. You know what? Actually, yeah, I'm rating as an E then. Because there are some short stories that I like, but I will not recommend this as a collection work to read. Like, I could recommend some short stories out of it, and maybe we could find it online for people to read about. Like, that's a possibility. But as its whole thing, no, it wouldn't. It was all right. It was fine, but definitely not high on the list, especially since this is a Stephen King list. Like, if you want to read Cat from Hell, it is stuck in other anthology series, and it is included in one of the collections, Just After Sunset by Stephen King. So we do have it inside of a Stephen King novel officially, so you don't have to like hunt down the random anthologies. But as a book as a whole, yeah, I would not. This was just a hard for me to read through. Again, not because of, well, for many factors, honestly. Not for lack of trying or writing, but like it was hard to read some of the verbiage and language for some of the older authors. Some of them were just boring. And the ones that I do like, it was like I like them a lot, but not enough to justify recommending this book. So it gets an E rating, which honestly is probably as good as it's gonna get, considering that this is an anthology of not mostly non Stephen King. So there we go. Alright, this is like the shortest thing. Honestly, I could probably like do this all the time. So up next, it's gonna be unfortunately another anthology series. It's gonna be Shadows. Again, also from 1978, because other people print out books at any time that they want, so they could print out in the same year. So I'll be reading another short story collection of Shadows, and then afterwards we should hopefully get back to more Stephen King, actual Stephen King, but we'll see how that goes. Alright, well, take care.